Hi, everyone. So a very warm welcome to all of you to our Git and GitHub workshop. This workshop is aimed to teach the basics of Git and GitHub to MSIS students. And I believe these are the students who do not have any prior experience or background in computer science environment. So it's very important to focus on the basics today. I believe all of us can easily learn Git in, let's say, 10 minutes. But what makes a difference is when you go back and try to implement those basics every day in your life. Those 10 minutes are used to, used to put it to use every day. And that really happens when you make your own projects, when you sign up on GitHub and every day make a little changes, update it. So I'm here to tell you about the basics. And of course, we'll go over the advanced comments and commands as well. But then I think, okay, let me start by introducing myself. Well, I am current MSIS student at Boston campus at Northeastern University, just like all of you. I just completed my co-op at Venca Robotics as a full stack software engineer, which is a company based in Boston. Prior to that, I was working in Siemens as a software engineer for 3 years. And so a fun fact about me is that I'm really in love with astrophysics. I really wanted to be an astronaut, but okay, fine. Accidentally, I'm a software engineer, which is apparently fine. I'll just quickly go over through my life. So in 2014 is when I started my bachelor's in technology back in India from UPS, Dehradun. And I majored in mechatronics engineering. After that, in 2018 is when I started working in Siemens Limited, which is a multinational company, which was based out in Mumbai, India. And then in 2021, I came here to US to pursue my master's in information systems at College of Engineering, Northeastern University, Boston. And then 2022, June is when I started working in Venca Robotics as a full stack SDE. And December is when I completed my co-op. And right now I'm in my second last semester at MSIS. So the topic Git and GitHub. So I'll start off with introduction, where I'll talk about how Git was originated and what is the difference between Git and GitHub. Then we'll go over a bit of hands-on. Like I said, I don't think we can learn Git by just talking about the theories. There has to be hands-on or at least a demo that you should be shown today. Then there are some interesting topics that I should be talking about, like what's the difference between fetch plus merge versus pull, merge conflicts, importance of README, forking repos, importance of GitHub in our everyday. And then we'll shortly have an MCQ session where I'll give you I think Jenny has already distributed papers that you have that has about 10 MCQ questions. They are based on very simple concepts of Git and GitHub. So I think you'll be able to do them. Then we'll discuss the answers. I'll talk about some GitHub best practices. Then I'll briefly tell how I learned GitHub. And then there'll be a conclusion like every other presentation has. And that's it. So quickly, let's start today's agenda. So yeah, how many of you are familiar with the word Git and GitHub or know what exactly it is? Yeah, I'm sure you must have heard it, if not used, right? So do you have accounts there? Yeah. So it was, if I talk about the origin of Git, it was back in 2005. It was originated by Linus Torvalds. And why? Because he himself or his company, he wasn't able to manage his whole code base. It was tough for him to have a version control system. It was getting tough to manage everything. So he invented Git. And what is Git? Is nothing but a version control system. When we have a code base and we want to know who's committed what changes, who's built what feature, and we also are very, very familiar with which version is uploaded when. So I think all of that is what we need in today's digital life when we see that, every now and then is a new version releasing of a particular app or of a particular software. So I think these are the things, these are the minor things that we need to always take care of, that we are updated in terms of code base that we are working on. So, and what is GitHub? Is nothing but a remote, basically a cloud-based web hosting service that supports Git system, that has remote repositories and which lets you manage your Git repositories. So this Git is a system, let's say, and GitHub is a house of the system. So GitHub supports Git, and that's why it became the most supportive version of the house. Going on, but why? So why do you think we do it at all? What's the point of sharing our code with the world, or what's the point of sharing the code at all? Anyone in the class or over the Zoom? Come on, guys, let's make it more interactive. Right. I think you're absolutely right. It's because in today's world, like if I want to go back when internet wasn't there, so would you say people were smarter back then, or are they smarter now? Of course now, right? So similarly, I can say GitHub is a Google for software developers. It's like wherein tomorrow you want to work on something, the first thing probably you or I would do is go on GitHub and check out, oh, I want to build this particular app. Is there something already on GitHub regarding that? Or is there someone else working on there? Can I collaborate with them? Or can I just check how is it made? If there's a naive programmer who wants to develop something, a small app, the best way to do is just go on GitHub, check out. It's important not only to learn from GitHub, but also to contribute back to GitHub, because if I actually develop my skill set through GitHub by forking or cloning a lot of repositories and learning from people's code, then it's also I make it public when I develop something, so that people out there who are my juniors can also learn. So it's important to take and give back to the society. I think let's jump on for a very basic hands-on. I'm not expecting all of you to go with me, because I'm not sure if you have the GitHub account and stuff like that. But then at least just see the demo, or just learn it and probably remember it. Also, you're free to always ask me, stop and ask me. So I'll just give me yeah. So just to let you know before I start, what will be the workflow? So we'll sign up on GitHub. I won't sign up. You guys can sign up. I already have it. I'll make a free repository, and then I will make a local repository in my local computer back in here. So when I say local repository is nothing but a directory, a folder, and I'll try adding a file to it. And the moment I add files or make changes, I will try to make the connection from my local repository to a remote repository back at GitHub. And we'll see how we can connect and upload these changes onto the remote, and then also doing some changes onto remote GitHub and then pulling them to our local. So this is something that I'm going to do. These are some of the commands that I'll be going through. But so I'll show you again if you're stuck, but then this is just something you wouldn't know by seeing it. And then, yeah, and then later today, we'll also try to break the connection between the local and the GitHub repository that we already made, because sometimes it happens that your work is done and you want to now break the connection. You want that repository to be connected with some other local directory, or your local directory to be connected with some other remote repository. So that's where you do this. And also I'll tell you, if you like someone's repository, so how to clone it back to your computer and make changes to it. So yeah, let's get started. Oh, I'm sorry. Just a second. Can I swap the displays? Okay, so this is my GitHub and these are my repositories. So I can just create, you guys can sign up and then we can create a new repository. Let's say I can name it as test one, anything, description if you want, and then I can just directly. See, I don't if you have not used it, probably it wouldn't be that easy to go along. But then you'll have the recording and you'll have my PPT and all the commands. So don't worry about it. You can just see the demo if you like, or if you think you can do it. I'm not stopping.
You guys are trying to follow up. You guys are trying to follow up.
Oh, okay, then there's no point. There's no point. It's fine. Yeah.
So it's kind of a foundation that started out with introducing it and then later on.
Yeah. So I created this repository and then again, I'll go back to my computer and let me just create a new folder, say GitHub 1.3 and just open a terminal. Yeah. So just to check where I am in the folder that I just made. So the first step here, because we're starting from the local repository, is to initialize Git version onto our local. And we do that by Git init. So the moment we do it, it says that this has initialized the Git onto our local repository. And let me just add something onto, let's say, I'll add this. Probably this, yep, to my. Okay, so since I've added this, now let me just get status. So for those who do not know, git status is a command which lets you see what is the status of your Git, or whether there is some untracked files or track files, or there are changes to be committed, changes to be staged, etc. So I can see in red 2 files. That means these are untracked files. That means I still have to add them to get them staged. So I do git add space dot. When I do that, that means that I've already added both the files. Cool. So when I do git add space dot is when I add both the files to this. So when I add the both files, and now if I do git status to just see if I've added, so it shows me in green and it says 2 new files, which means that they were not there before, but now they're there. So if I want to now commit these. To files. Okay, so I have committed the 2 files. I just want to git log. So it's a very important command because it shows you the Git history, your commit history. So till now, I have only committed once. So, and it also shows me a unique identifier, which you might be using later for something. It shows me when I have committed it, and it also shows me the message that I used for committing this. That's okay. Now, if I want to go back to my system, let me also know if you guys can see my system. I think you guys can. Cool. I have to show this as well. So I want to make some changes. I hope I don't get disturbed now. I want to make some changes. Let's say I just go to this particular file and I just MSIS. I just save it and minimize it. And then I also add another file to it. Let's say I want to. So let me add this file to here. Actually, no. Right. So if I go back to my terminal and I do. So I have changed a file and I have added one more file. So if I do git status here, it tells me that there are some changes here. I've changed in a file. There's an untracked file, which is that I've added a file and also I've modified a file. So if I say git add again, and then I do git status, is when it stage all of the 3 files to be committed. So I can just do git commit m and say changes. I'm sorry, I'm having bad comments today, but be very, very sure of having good commit comments, because that actually tells what and when and why do you do. So that says that I've already committed these changes. Now the changes are here, they're added, they're committed, but how do I add to my repository, which is there? So this is what I copy. And I go to my terminal and then I use git remote add origin and this. And I want to verify if whatever repository I try to connect to my local, if it's connected or not. So I do git remote -v. And it tells me that, yeah, this is the test 1.git is what you've connected. Now, the changes that I have already done is what I need to push here. So I'll do git push /u origin master. And here is when I push and I can see the changes. So if I go here and I just go to test 1, and I see that 1 minute ago, I can see all the changes that I've made. And I can also see the git commits that I've made. Now, what if I want to have some changes on my remote, and then I want to also have those changes in my local? So let's say I want to make some change in test1 repository. I'll just add a README, simple. Yeah, and I'll just add a README, right? So now what do I do? So I can go back because it's still connected with my local. So I can go back here. And there are 2 ways to fetch, or I can say pull, the changes that you have already made into your local from remote. One way is that you do fetch plus merge. The other way is when you do pull. There is a very slight difference between both of them, but it's very important to understand both the differences. So let's say I'm going to show you this one, git fetch origin, sorry, master. So it fetches, it says, okay, cool. It's all set. There are no merge conflicts. You can merge it. So I take git. So since there are no conflicts, I am going forward to merge it. So I do git, sorry, what did I use? Yep. So git merge origin. And this time I use the backslash and then I use the master. So there are differences between when you use fetch and when you use merge. With fetch, there is no slash between origin and master. But when you use the command merge, you have to use reason. Even I don't know, I'm free to the audience. If someone has a reason, they can educate us. But this is what it is. Yep. So it says that it successfully clone the changes that were there in the remote to our local. If you want to see that, I can very well show you that. Let me know if you're able to. Perfect. Yep. So see, there was no README file, but now there is a README file. That means I've successfully had all the changes from remote to local. And also, the other way to do this is, let's say I just have some more change. Hi, all. This is one more change that I did on my local. the same thing can be done. The two commands that I used here can also be done with a shortcut way of it is git pull origin, no slash master. Yep. And the same thing happened here. So now again, I have my file wherein if I want to show you this, yeah, it's not visible, it's on the other screen, but it shows you hi all as well. So that means it's changed. Cool. What I wanted to speak here was that there is a difference. Can you see the? Can you see the PPT? Okay, no problem. I have a hard time pulling this, really. Yep. Cool. So what I was talking was the difference between the two things, which was fetch plus merge versus pull. So apparently, when you're sure that you're the only person working in the whole repository, you're the only person working on the project, then it's very safe to use the git command pull, because you know that pull will be successful because you won't have any merge conflicts. But at the same time, if you have various branches on the project and there are multiple people working on it, or you're working in multiple branches and that has the same file onto those branches, and if someone works on the same line of code, let's say I've worked on the line number 12 and my friend has worked on the line number 12, and we both are writing the same code. And the moment I try to merge it onto the base branch is when I'll have the merge conflicts. And if I do pull over there, I don't think that'll be successful because that'll show me merge conflicts. What are these merge conflicts? We'll go to the next slide and tell you. But before that, it is important to remember that if you're sure of not having conflicts, use the command git pull. But if you have doubts regarding having conflicts, use first git fetch like I did, and then git merge. While fetching, it'll tell you what are the conflicts and it'll recommend you to resolve them first. And when you merge it is when it actually merges onto your code. So that is very important to remember. Just a last thing I wanted to show you over here was you can see my terminal, right? So since this particular repository is connected to my remote repository, I also want to disconnect these repositories from each other, because I might have to have a different connection for that one or this one. So what I can use here is git remote remove origin. And that's where the whole connection is broken. Now you can have this connected to some other remote, or you can have that remote to connect it to some other local. So, okay. Having said this, let me move on to the PPT. You can see the PPT, right? I told you about the differences. Yeah. So while I was talking about the fetch plus merge versus pull, I talked about merge conflicts. So like I told you, when does it happen? It happens when there's a project and there are different people working on it. For example, a class project or organization or anywhere where there are different branches and people are working on the same code, same files. So here, Git is not smart enough to make its own decision that which code to take. So Git needs your manual help to decide which changes to incorporate in the final merge when you're making a final file to be deployed. Now the Git needs these manual efforts from you to recognize which is the right code. So we need to resolve them manually.
Yeah. We were having the folder in my repository. But when from local to my repository, when I was just adding all those I was pushing all the folders in my from local to the repository. So how can I specifically only add to the file was the folder number 10.
You just you git add the name of the folder,
So
name of the file. I mean.
okay.
Yeah.
So dash and you didn't have that.
No. While adding it, you don't have to do space dot because that adds everything. If you want to have, you want to be specific about what you need to push, you git add and that file name is when you push that particular thing. Yeah. So yeah, about the merge conflicts. So how do I resolve them? Okay, let me just quickly, I'll go through a very small demo again. Cool. So the first thing is to go to my GitHub. On Zoom is my GitHub. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I go to my repository. Let me just make another repo. Let's say merge conflict example. Let me make it public. Let me just create. Yep. So over here, let me just start by creating a new file. Yeah, let me just have alpha.html. I'm going to show you a very simple example so that you guys don't get confused, because if I'll show you like a big code base and merge conflicts onto that, I think just like I remember my old times, I wasn't able to get through it. So I'm going to show you a very simple example. So, yep. So I'm going to commit and create a new file. So now I have my main branch, and onto that I have my alpha.html. Now I want to create another, let's say feature one, another branch. And I want this branch to be created from the main branch, which means that if I create this, if I do this, then I'll have another branch which is created from main. That means it will also have the same components that the main branch had. So it also had alpha HTML. So let's say main is me and feature is you guys, and we both are working on it. Now, if I go to feature one, and let me just edit something. Yep. On this, this is feature one. And this is, let's say, a change, a line of code that I've made in alpha.html. And let me just comment this. Yeah, cool. Let me go to main. That's the main branch that I was working on. Let me edit that as well. I have alpha.html, and the same line on line number one, I'm writing, this is the main code. Cool. And then again, I'm committed. Now I have these two branches, main and feature one, and both of them have this file alpha.html, but both of them have a different line of code. Now I go to pull request, and I go to new pull request, right? And I say base would be main, because that's apparently by default, Git says that your main, or sometimes it's master, but I think now it's changed to main, is your main branch, wherein the code should be in the final form before being deployed or before being in production. So, and you will compare that with feature one. That's what I do. And it says automatic. It can't automatically merge. Why? Because the both files have different line of code. So it doesn't know which one to follow. So I'll say I'll have a create pull request. I'll say fixing any comment that you want. And I'll create a pull request. And then now it'll check that whether it's able to merge or not, and says the branch has conflicts that must be resolved. So I'll say, okay, I am going to resolve these conflicts. And the moment I do resolve these conflicts, it takes me to Git Web Editor. This is called Git Web Editor, where it shows you that what is the problem. It shows me that in feature one, it has, this is feature number one. That's, let's say, a line of code. And it shows me in main, it's written, this is the main code. So it's, again, I repeat, it is the manual effort that one has to make to resolve the conflicts. I'm going to now make a decision of which line of code I want. Let's say I manually will delete, or I'm sorry, accept it. Let me say I need this code. Yep. This is my final code. And I'll say mark as resolved. This is visible on Zoom, right? Yeah. And I say commit merge. And again, it's checking for the ability to merge, and it says the branch has no conflicts with the base branch now. So I will say merge pull request. It says, yeah, cool. Everything's okay. It'll say confirm merge. And perfect. Now if I go to my branch, so this is my main. If I go to my alpha HTML, it says this is the main. This is the code that I went for. This is the code that I manually resolved and said, hey, this is what I want. I went on feature. This is the main. So the whole point in resolving conflicts is the manual decision that one has to take. Which code do you want, and which code do you want to decline? So you manually go there. Now the same thing, I use Git web editor. Some people, or I would say most of people, use the IDE that they're working on. Mostly, like when I was working on my co-op, I was using VS Code. So I could see on VS Code, there are two I would say pages that come up. It'll tell me which line of code has conflicts, and what are the two code that I need to compare with, and which one can I accept, and which one can I decline. So I just accept, decline, and then I do the same thing. So that's where you merge the whole code. So now in your final branch is the code that you wanted, and in your feature branch is also the code you wanted. So this was a very small and quick demo for merge conflicts. Going back to the PPT. PPT is visible. Cool. Yeah. So next is important topics. These are some of the important topics that one should know when they're using Git. The first thing is the readme.md file. So I believe every project, big or small, starting phase or in production, should have a readme.md file. It's basically intended to provide the information, all the information and everything about that project, which phase that project is in, who are the people who build the code, which is the organization that's been funding them, or what is the organization that code has taken from, and everything regarding that. So it's very important to have a README. It can range from 1 line to 1,000 line, but it has to be there. Something that I also want to talk about is forking repos. So like I showed you cloning of repos. Now, what is cloning is that there is some repository in your remote, and you want to get it all into your local, so you clone it. And then you make changes, and then you upload it back, you push it back. And that's what called cloning is. Whereas forking is that you can fork a repo of your friend, of an organization, of anything from remote to remote. And then you can make a changes over there without being the original file affected. So that's called forking. That's a very major difference between forking and cloning. I'll get into the details in the next slide. But two other important topics is the private paid repositories. These are not the public ones that are free from GitHub, but most of the organizations out there, or if there is a confidential or important personal project that you're working on, I would recommend you to use the private. They are paid, but then it's where your code will not be shown to the world. You might have some of your code or projects that you don't want to show before it's in production. So that's where these repos are required. Very important topic, updating GitHub every day. It's not only, of course, it lets you show off your work, your talent, lets the recruiters know that, hey, you're there onto the digital media, creating code, you're a programmer, you're a developer. But apart from that, it is also very useful on your personal level to manage your own projects. Let's say you have 16 projects and you have on your laptop, and your laptop is gone. I mean, no matter, you can have it on cloud and everything, but it's better to have it on GitHub, because that is the source code management system, so that you have it in all details and you know which day you committed what, and you have the final version of it, and you can have a working, non-working, in production, in making any sort of project over there. And you wouldn't have any time, any difficulty using those. So I think that's one very personal reason that I update my GitHub almost every day. I mean, according to whatever I'm doing. And again, coming back to landing a job, landing a co-op, it's very important to have your GitHub updated, because then you can share your link onto every application that you're applying. So of course, the recruiters, I think most of the recruiters these days, before they see your application, they definitely see your GitHub account, because they want to see that, hey, everyone writes the same sort of skill set, everyone writes the same sort of resume, then what makes you different from people is your GitHub account, because that's where they say you're working on an everyday basis. So it's very important to be, at par with the technology, at par with the coding world. I was talking about the forking and cloning repos. Just to tell you in something that's more visible, is that forking is from remote to remote server. It's like you have a Git repo 1 and you want to have a Git repo 2. So you can fork anyone's repo, which is forkable, of course. You can fork that and get the same thing and then make your changes and upload it. But when you clone it from a remote to your local. So, and when you clone it, if you make changes and push, then the original file is also changed. So that's the difference between forking and cloning. It's very important, and I would say a trending topic. So we came to this MCQ session. Everyone has, so people who are in the class would have a PDF file. What's the time? So this is 3:48. I give you 10 minutes till 3:58. You can take there are 10 questions, 10 minutes. You can, I believe they're very easy, and all of them are based on whatever I've told you till now. It's a basic Git MCQ, and after 10 minutes, we should discuss. And any one of you who's willing to volunteer for the giving the answers, you can. People online can also do the same. I think Jenny has, you have shared them the PDF, so you could open that, or else even I can. Let me know if I can just open the is it on Zoom? The PDF. Okay. Oh no, because I've already done this, so I want to share it with on the Zoom if they want. So you guys can just, according to the question number, note down the answers, and we shall just discuss it after 10 minutes. Perfect. Yep. Maybe. Yeah, this is fine. Cool. And if you're done before, we can do it before. Have you heard of Git reset hard head? Did you use that? Yeah, reset. So if let's say that unique identifier that I was talking about, which comes along with the Git commit, right? Like that, like 0021 thing, something like that. So you use Git reset hard head in caps. And then you put, yeah, you can't undo the Git commits, but then you provide the identifier, and it takes you to the place which was at that particular moment when you were committing that change. Let's say you made a change yesterday and then you've made a change today. So if you go and do git log and you see that I want I want my head to be back there yesterday. So you use that particular the identifier, and then you use it with git reset hard head. That should be okay. That's like exactly the reference point of view. I think we're almost about the time. So let's start with the first question. Which of these? It's a very basic question. I had no idea that you guys are already familiar with the Git. So which of these terms best describes the GitHub? So what is your answer? Anyone? Yeah, exactly. It's the web-based hosted service which makes your Git repository being hosted there. So exactly, the answer is C. The second word, what is the opposite of Git clone? Yeah, exactly. So clone is when you download from the remote and push is when you do from local to remote. Yeah, C is the answer. What command do you run to view the Git commit history of your repository? Git log. Someone said Git history. So yeah, no, actually, when you do history over to your terminal, it tells you everything that's happened since, I don't know, maybe the start of the time. So that's a different command. But if you want to see your commit history, that's when you use Git log. Oh, I'm sorry. I think they're answering it, or let me just. I think that's fine, right? Oh yeah, I just saw. I don't think they have question. They're just like answering something. Here's the MCQ question. The last one is yours.
I think William, if you have question, is just unmute yourself and ask the question.
Or you can put it in the chat. I don't
Yeah,
mind.
also put it in the chat if the student online have any questions.
Okay. So yeah, we were on the third. Yeah. So if you want to see the commit history, use Git log. Fourth is, how do you check the state of your local Git repository since your last commit? I think each one of us would have used this by now. You use Git status. Yep. So yeah, I think people online were trying to answer. Yeah. Okay. So you use Git status is when you know that whether your files are staged for the changes or they are not. Fifth one is, what's the shortcut to staging all the changes that you have? I think we have discussed this, right? Yeah, git add. So git add, I think dot is missing. I'm so sorry. So git add space and dot means that you add all the files that are in the folder and all the files that are changed in the folder during that time. So sixth one is, how do you supply a commit message to a commit? So I believe the answer, which one is the answer? Yeah. B. Yep. It's it. Yeah. D is the answer. Never mind. So basically git commit space hyphen M and then in the quotes your message. So which is the correct usage for the push? Which one is the answer? Yes, the first one, the git push remote and the branch name comes in the end. So the first one is the answer. The eighth one is, which is the correct order to submit your changes from a working directory all the way to the remote repository? What is the, I think it should be very easy. Add, commit, and push. So git add, git commit, git push is the right order. So it's C. Ninth, which of these terms best describe Git? Sorry. Yeah, B, distributed version control system, right? So it's the version control system. The Git is the version control system and the GitHub is the house for it. 10th, what is the Git command that downloads your repository from GitHub to your computer? Yeah, it's D, Git clone, and not B, Git fork. That does from remote to remote. So remote to local is clone. I think you guys did a good job. Sorry, I'm not able to hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, it's regarding the push command, right? Yeah. So we usually take the push, and then the right. Right. So yeah, it basically is the water brackets, which mean that origin as it, I mean, wherever it is, the mode or origin or wherever the code origins, it says that. And it has to.
Cool. I'll go back to the PPT. Okay, so is my PPT visible now? Yep. Okay, so GitHub best practices. So a lot of people here would already be using it. So the first one, I know we usually ignore best practices and we just focus on doing our stuff. But then I believe that as you move forward in your software engineering journey, you have to have these 6, especially actually 7. One is the readme.md, but these 6 points in your mind, because when you work in an organization is when these things start becoming more important. The first one is that you avoid committing large files. I know a lot of people think that we'll make everything onto our local and then finally we'll push everything together. But actually that should not be the case, because what if someday you just lose your work onto your local? So it's very important that even if you make a small change, that should be very well gone to the Git. If you don't want other people to know it, there's always a way of sharing the code with people. You could, like, different organizations have different, where I was working, I could always choose my, while I was committing or pushing my change to the remote, I could choose the audience that, okay, for this particular change, I want these people to see my code. So sometimes that sort of a thing also occurs, but make sure that you commit small files and very specific files, I would say. You should always secure your account with 2-factor authorizations. This is more relevant when we start working in an industry, because I'm sure like people like us who have just started making our private accounts, not a lot of people are trying to, hack that. On the similar lines, we should use SSH keys instead of HTTPS. The reason being, again, it adds one more security layer in between. And it's a key that's very specific to an organization. And if you try to use that, it's very rare that your account or an organization's private account can be hacked. So it's for that. It's just a security layer. 4th point is very important in my eyes. It says make effective use of branching. When I say effective use of branching is, there are 2 ways. Sometimes people have branches under their names. Then let's say my branch is Shivangee and someone's branch is Ashwin or someone else. But that mostly happens when you're working on a small project. But if the project is bigger, then the branch name starts happening with the name of features. Let's say I have a login page, and then someone has the CRUD operation page, and then someone has some other page, feature 1, feature 2, feature 3, and go on. So we have to make effective use of these branching. Be very sure of when you're creating a branch or deleting a branch. And also I feel it becomes very easy to add your code onto a particular branch if the branch is set up very nicely, and it's very easy to collaborate with others while you have it. So it's a good point. Thoughtful commit method, something that I have not been doing today. You have to be very, very sure when you're committing a message on your commit. Like, it should tell you what is the change. It should definitely tell you why is the change, and it should tell you what change does that bring to the code that you've already that you've made. So, I mean, you can do it in a line, or you can answer all of those in lines, that you created this feature which enabled this and this particular thing which was not there before. But the message has to be very thoughtful. Okay, use of .gitignore to prevent tracking of files. It's basically what happens is that when you make a push, sometimes there are some files which contain some authorization and passwords which should not be gone to your GitHub. But so if you have this file named .gitignore onto your project, it prevents that tracking, and it adds those things inside. You have to add those things inside, and when you push the change, these particular things will not be pushed to your GitHub, because that's that should be prevented, right? So that's the use of this file. My story, back when I was in my 4th year, I have been most of my life a mechanical student, because I did my engineering in mechatronics. But probably by the end of 3rd or 4th year, I realized that maybe mechanical is not my field of interest, and it's probably IT, or let's say computer science. So most of the computer science people are already familiar with things like Git and GitHub and others, but I was not. So I think I learned it on my own. To be very frank, I learned all the small to advanced Git commands in a day, not even a day, in an hour. But what actually I realized after some months is that it's not important to learn advanced concepts initially. It's more important to learn the basic and keep using it. And that's where, like, yeah, you had a problem regarding reverting. But if you do that revert, let's say 5 or 6 times in a month, I'm pretty sure that you wouldn't have a problem doing that. So it's basically that you focus on basics, like a maths teacher tells people that we have to focus on basics, and that's what is the ground for even the advanced questions. Similarly, Git advanced commands, you can always go on Google and find it. What makes you more, I think, what makes you more going forward with it is that if you use it in your daily life. So that's where I started it, that in my 4th year, I started making my own projects and started just pushing it every day. And while I was pushing it and reverting it or doing something here and there, I, on my own, had a lot of problems in it, and I solved on my own. So no matter there are 2,000 more workshops that you attend for Git Basic, Git Advanced, it's only easy when you do it. So that's like the rule of life. My ending note is what exactly I said right now. Nothing comes in a day, but the more you do it is the more you know it. So if you keep doing it, you'll only face problems. You'll only see them over Stack Overflow. You'll type it, you'll see it, you'll help your friends, take help from friends, and that's how you learn it. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me here and listening to me, and having and seeing all the problems that I was having between both the computers. But I'm open to the questions if anyone has any. And these are the 4 platforms that I'm really active on: my email, my Instagram, LinkedIn, and my GitHub account. Anytime, please feel free to have any sort of, if you have any questions or you need any assistance from me, from my end. And also I'm like always free to just chit chat or have a cup of coffee with anyone. So that's about it. Any questions, guys? I think I'm done.